Let's jump right into this Grade 8 English explainer on fiction and nonfiction. If we're going to truly unlock the meaning behind any text we read, we've got to build a rock-solid foundation first. So, let's dive straight into the core concepts. To analyze texts accurately, we have to categorize them with absolute clarity. Here is the baseline. State exactly. Fiction is an imagined or created narrative. Nonfiction is factual or informational writing about real people, events, or ideas. This distinction is literally the bedrock of how we approach everything we read.
But we've got to bust a couple of major myths right now. Fiction does not simply mean false, and nonfiction is not automatically unbiased. Imagined narratives often hold profound truths, right? And heavily researched factual accounts are still shaped by a writer's perspective. Moving forward, we're going to focus on two key areas: literary nonfiction, which applies those great storytelling techniques to real events, and informational text, which is designed purely to explain.
So how do authors actually structure these narratives? We can map a story's exact trajectory using the 5-stage plot pyramid. Think of it as the heartbeat of a story. It begins with the exposition, climbs through the rising action to an absolute peak at the climax, drops into the falling action, and finally settles into the resolution.
Let's see this in action. The first stage, the exposition, grounds us. In the story, our exposition establishes the iconic Baker Street setting and introduces Helen and Julia. We learn about their living situation, which plants the essential background seeds for the mystery that's about to unfold.
Next up, the rising action builds undeniable tension. The detective uncovers some incredibly suspicious engineered clues in the room: a dummy bell rope, a fake ventilator, and a bed clamped securely to the floor. These aren't just random details. They're deliberately planted to escalate the stakes and push us right to the brink.
Then we hit the climax, the absolute turning point. During an intense night vigil in the dark, the detective hears a hiss, strikes a match, and lashes furiously with his cane. The waiting is over. This is that explosive moment of highest tension.
Immediately after that, we plunge into the falling action. The tension drops sharply as the antagonist dies within 10 seconds of being bitten. The primary immediate threat in that room is neutralized in a flash.
Finally, the resolution. The deadly snake is secured in the iron safe, and Helen is conveyed to safety. All the loose ends are tied up, and the narrative arrives at a stable, satisfying conclusion.
Now, whether we're mapping a mystery or reading a historical document, we rely on the National Reading Framework. This means learning to pinpoint the main idea, identify supporting details, and extract concrete text evidence. It's a critical skill for deep comprehension across any discipline.
Equally important is evaluating an author's purpose and viewpoint or perspective. For example, a documented primary source inquiry from the Library of Congress demonstrates perspective and bias. Why does this matter? Well, because every text is written by a human for a reason. Recognizing that completely shapes how critically you consume information.
Let's put your new framework to the test with a quick check. Which plot stage includes the dummy bell rope? Think back to the structural model we just covered and ask yourself exactly where a suspense-building clue belongs.
I guess the answer is rising action, because engineered clues build tension toward the climax. They raise the stakes right before the big confrontation.
Okay, here is our second check. In the National Reading Framework, is poetry an informational text? Keep our strict definitions of fiction and nonfiction in mind for this one.
The answer is no. It is literary text. Along with fiction and literary nonfiction, poetry belongs purely to the literary category, not the informational one.
So, keeping our scope perfectly dialed in, we'll hit these 6 milestones: predictions about plot, confirm or modify predictions, use information to solve a problem, recognize details indicating author's purpose, evaluate whether the author achieves purpose, and identify main idea and details. The next time you open a book or an article, ask yourself, are you just absorbing the words on the page, or are you truly decoding the author's hidden intent?